Today, I'm interviewing the wonderful Sarah Ban Breathnach. The Sunday Telegraph said that Sarah might be described as the Isaac Newton of the simplicity movement, and USA Today said that she speaks to the very soul of frazzled modern women who suffer from a lethal surge of impossible expectations. Time magazine called her the Martha Stewart of the soul. Sarah's groundbreaking book, Simple Abundance, has sold over 5 million copies, topped the New York Times bestsellers list for 2 years, and has been translated into 28 languages. Her book, Simple Abundance, is also responsible for introducing two concepts, the gratitude journal and the term authentic self, into the American conversation. Oprah Winfrey has called Sarah's work life-changing, and Sarah has been a frequent guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show and owns Super Soul Sunday. She even inspired Oprah to start a gratitude journal. Additionally, Sarah has been a contributing editor of Good Housekeeping and a nationally syndicated columnist for the Washington Post Writers Group, and was named as one of the 15 women redefining what it means to be 50 today by More magazine. Simple Abundance has changed and touched my life for the last decade through breakups, moves, and career changes. So I'm honored, excited, and grateful, Sarah, that you are taking the time to chat with us today. It's kind of crazy to think that we're going into 2020 and it was such perfect timing, I feel, for Simple Abundance, because I've been reading it for basically 10 years, and every time my friends have been going through something or they need something that helps them feel understood, that was always a book that I told them to buy immediately. So perfect timing. Before Simple Abundance, though, you had already published 2 books on Victorian family life and was about to publish a third on Victorian details. The only thing is that you weren't excited about that third book. You had asked your intuition what you needed to do, and so you got the impression to write 100 reasons why you're happy now. So from this space, you started writing down grateful moments, which was the foundation for Simple Abundance, and it became the guiding principle of the book. So a lot of my listeners struggle with hearing their own intuition. How did you know your intuition was guiding you in a new direction, and how did you get the courage to listen to it?
Well, Francesca, I think it's very interesting because when I was told, I think that intuition is the Morse code of how we hear the spiritual. Simple Abundance will work no matter what your spiritual belief is, because it's creative and it's practical. But I really believe that the our untapped ability to bring our dreams into the world and to be a force for good in the world, but really to just have the life that we yearn for. That intuition is our invisible guide. But when I sat down at the dining room table, I was absolutely exhausted by the whining I did in my head. And I don't think that women complain too much to their friend, because we wouldn't have it. But I think that there's a constant whining when we're frustrated and we feel like our dreams are denied and we don't know what to do. And, we're doing everything, we're consciously connecting the dots, but we're getting nowhere. When I say I was whining to myself in my head and my heart, and I was also whining to heaven. And I just, I heard this voice. I recognized it not as my own. And it's more like marching orders. And so that's when I want you to sit down here and give me 100 reasons why you're grateful for your life exactly as it is right now. And money can't be on the list. So, wow. 6 hours later, I needed to go pick up the carpool and as many pots of tea. I had over, 100 blessings. And I was humbled, and I felt bad that I sounded like an ungrateful brat. And that's when gratitude became it was a science experiment, all right, a spiritual science experiment, because I think skeptics make the best seekers. And I started to write little moments of what happened down. I wrote them on Post-it notes, I wrote them on index cards, I wrote them on back of envelopes, just whatever I could find. If something, a moment happened, that was, wow, a fleeting moment, I would capture it on any kind of piece of paper. So then I thought, why don't you just put them in a journal? So it would be easier than having to look for all of these papers. So that's what I started to do. And then after about 2 months, I noticed that I was feeling calmer. I was more content, but the outside world had not changed. Before I started my gratitude list, It was the period of downshifting. Everybody in the country was really tightening your belt. People were losing their jobs, 1,000 a day, and it was very scary. So downshifting was the only game in town. But downshifting sounded so punitive. What I was feeling felt so buoyant, and I realized that gratitude was the buffer. That was the buffer. And I thought, oh, well, if you do this for 2 months, you're going to be different on the inside. And that's when I knew I had a book. That's what I wanted to write. And blessedly, Simple Abundance came into my brain in neon letters. And really, when neon letters happen, you pay attention.
Yes.
And I said, that's it. So then I started that journey. And the journey would take me 5 years. And for the first 3, for 2 years, I was rejected by every publisher in America. But I kept writing. I kept showing up every day. But that struggle to bring Simple Abundance into the world was massive. There would be so many days when I would have nothing, I would think, to be grateful for. And so I put down my basic, especially my agent, Chris Tomasino, got to the point where she would group a few rejections at a time. She didn't let me know every day. But every 3 weeks, she'd very gently give me the bad news.
Wow.
So there are going to be some days when, you feel like crying yourself to sleep. And what I learned was when we hurl faith across the room and just sob and feel so alone and so desolate and in such despair, gratitude really sits at the end of our bed waiting to comfort us. I just wanted other women to know that. That's really the motivating force behind the dream of Simple Abundance.
That's really wonderful. And I really appreciate you sharing the fact that it wasn't easy. Like, even though you received that revelation and you received that inspiration, you still had those moments of doubt, and yet you showed up. You kept writing, you kept believing in what you felt.
Well, yes, because an artist, and I believe that all of us, all women, are artists of the everyday. You are an artist in what you create for others, in your website and in your positive encouragement. I mean, those are your paint colors. And so we're artists of the everyday. And we have to understand that, first of all, that seems very radical. And if you've not grown up in a creative environment, and most of us haven't, unless, you have a gift, you dancing from the time you're 2. But, you have to. We don't think of ourselves as artists, but the everyday is the canvas. Every day is the canvas of our lives. But when you give yourself over to the work, you surrender to the work. I love Madeleine L'Engle, the author of A Wrinkle in Time. She was rejected 20 times for that book. She had a very strong faith, and she has a wonderful book on faith and art called Walking on Water. But what she says is, you have to be willing to be a servant of the work. And I think that what that means in our lives is you have to be willing to do it. You have to show up. You can pretend you're a temp. You're a creative if you're not, and we go through these periods when we don't feel creative at all. And we're dry and we just want to give the whole damn thing up. If you pretend, this is acting, I'm just a creative temp. I'm just holding it back until the artist comes back. I'm holding the space for it. So you get to those days and you think, I have nothing to be thankful for. I was just turned down. What is this, my 20th? Is this 25? Why am I doing this? This is ridiculous. And you've let me down. I mean, what the hell? This has been going on for 2 years. Those are the nights, you write down my daughter, her health, my husband, his health, my health, the cats. I'm able to do this. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do it, but tomorrow is another day. And so you have your basics there. And there have been so many times in my life when I've gone back to my basics. But that's what gratitude is. That gratitude is the foundation that can fuel your creative energy.
Oh, I love that, because with a lot of my audience, we definitely talk about the importance of the foundational habits. I love morning routines, and gratitude is definitely a part of that. I just love how beautifully you put that as women, we're artists of the everyday, and that it takes going back to those basics and really just having that faith and continuing to keep doing the work and being a slave to it, even if you don't know when or how it's going to happen. And so it ties it in nicely to my next question. In a December entry in Simple Abundance, I was reading it at some point this month. You said, for women, big things are expected of us, and we better be about it. We need to take care of ourselves so that we have the strength and patience to care for who and what we love. So what does your morning routine look like, and why is it important to you? I know you said gratitude, and I just wanted to see if there were other things that you did and why.
I mean, the morning is where we start our day. The morning can determine how the rest of the day is going to flow or not, because we live in such a different world today than it was in 1995. And I'll get to the morning routine in a minute, but I just want to mention that the world we're living in today, the 24/7 breaking news culture that we are existing in, the social media mirage of perfection, and it is mirage. We can't be perfect. Even the great creator, after the world was created, said it's very good. But no, women, we will be perfect if we're trying anything. Yes. Which of course is the secret saboteur. We are so skilled at self-sabotage. But I start my day not connected to the world. I wake up and I feed the cats because they're very early rise, and I make a pot of tea and I bring it back to bed with me. I have that first cup of tea and I read something that inspires me or gives me hope or encourages me. I'm passionate about what I call women with a past, women who've gone before, and all types of women in all kinds of situations, and how they all reached the point of no return, and they're so tired. They're so exhausted, and you can just feel the desperation in their voices from their memoirs. And then they went forward. They took that one more step. And every woman that I've discovered, every inspirational woman, every woman that we admire, doesn't matter what her path was, she had a point where she could give up or go on. And they went on. It's the Scarlett O'Hara moment when she's on the bridge. She raises her fist and she says, God is my witness. I will never be hungry again. Not me or my kin. It's that kind of soul moment, that kind of destiny, really. It is your destiny. You can't get to your destiny without reaching that moment of complete despair. I think that's because we can't do it alone. We have to have the spiritual moxie to continue. And I love the word moxie. It's an old-fashioned word from the Victorian time. It was a health food drink.
Oh.
And it had no alcohol, but it was a health food drink. And I just love what the word moxie represents to me. It represents grace and grit and gumption. So I will read stories. I love women's stories, women's memoirs, women's private lives. And there's an idea that what women do in their writings and in their truthfulness, women who have died, that is such a helping hand for us. But I think in my life and in my work, I've just wanted to have a conversation with my reader. I write for only one woman. That's you when you're reading me. That's the listener if she's reading me. We're just having a real, truthful, loving, gentle conversation. There's much laughter if we can just get to that point. So that's what I do. It's sort of like I fill the well before I can face the world. And, it's after my second cup of tea that I'm ready then to go and see what came overnight and start the business of the day. Now, when I was working on Simple Abundance, the 25th anniversary edition is like, I don't know, how did that happen?
That's amazing.
I do the same morning thing, but I was at the computer. I was writing. It was a very tough deadline, but it was the happiest writing I'd ever done because it just had a momentum to calm our lives. And I've learned to be a very disciplined writer. So that was certainly part of the writing of Simple Abundance, the new one, which is 128 pages longer than the first one.
Awesome.
So I really had a lot I wanted to talk to you about.
I love that. You said so many wonderful nuggets of wisdom, especially the part where you said that you come to a point, every person comes to a point where you give up or you go on. And that's just, wow, that's so powerful. And everything else that you said as well. And I love that you also said you write for that one reader, and Simple Abundance really does make women feel seen and heard. I posted snippets of different entries on Instagram, and without fail, women reach out asking about your book, and they will often buy it because they just feel this magnetism towards what you're saying. Something and someone is speaking directly to their soul, and you get it. So in Simple Abundance, you often talk about how women are complex divine beings who often lose a sense of harmony because we're overextending ourselves, making promises without thinking, which is something that I've had to work on this year, and having zero time in our calendar for ourselves. And so at the time, blocking out 2 hours a week for self-time was seen as revolutionary and impossible. But you touched on this earlier that now it's, the social media, we have news streams 24/7, we just have everything going on all the time, and our attention span is basically less than a goldfish, which I think you said was 8 seconds or even less.
And Francesca, 10 years ago it was 12 seconds.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So it's
this was a study done by Microsoft. 10 years ago, we were better than a goldfish. We were at 12, and the goldfish is at 9.
Oh boy.
Second, and that now it's less than a goldfish.
Oh my God.
So I mean, when you sort of just meditate on that, today, I think that what I'm trying to do in the Simple Abundance for the 21st century is I'm encouraging you to create a buffer zone in the morning and in the evening. I want you to have an hour, but I'd be happy, and you would too, if you had a half hour at least. Just try to keep the media and the phone and the computer, just try not to go into the day with that being your only grounding, because you're not. You're not going to be grounded. And what happens now that didn't happen, and what's so disturbing, is that every natural disaster in the world, which are getting more horrific because we didn't take care of the earth, but every natural disaster or every incident of violence, and we're sucked right in because it's our heartstrings. I mean, we look at strangers in danger and we can't do anything. We can't do anything to help them. And so what that does is it internalizes our feeling, and we become stunned by sorrow that we can't change. We don't know what to do. And you have to create a protective barrier for yourself. In this Simple Abundance, too, I have the caution closet for the first time so that we can try to prepare for the unexpected, which happens all the time now, to bring us a sense of solace when we feel helpless, when we can't do anything. For example, when I was writing this book, I just knew that I wanted to be able to help someone in a crisis, a stranger. So I learned CPR. And now, I hope I never have to use it, please God. But now, if there was somebody that was in trouble, I wouldn't have to stand back. But it's also for our own contentment, you see. So I just really, and I encourage you, I mean, the last thing any woman needs is to be yelled at. I mean, just forget that. I just want to encourage you to be able to take care of others, but you have to take care of yourself first. Yeah, that's really it. I mean, that's your sacred duty. I've always started off Simple Abundance from the beginning, and it still continues with a quote from Louise Bogan, who was America's first poet laureate. And she said, "In a time lacking in truth and certainty and filled with anguish and despair, no woman should be shamefaced in attempting to get back to the world through her work a portion of its lost heart." And that's what I meant with big things are expected of us.
Wow. That is so powerful, and I love how you really took that to heart and have shared it with so many of us. From what it sounds like, it's just finding that buffer zone, like you said, and making that space in your life so that you act from stillness rather than just being reactive to all the busyness around us, which I love, and that gives us so much power. It gives us a lot of power to be able to create a life that we love. One thing, I think this was on your site, which I just loved. It said the world needs dreamers and the world needs doers, but above all, the world needs dreamers who do. And I feel like that is absolutely the people that I interact with on a daily basis and that I talk to a lot and who really resonate with this message. So what is a dream of yours right now, and what are you focusing on most these days? I know you just released the 25th anniversary version of Simple Abundance, but what's next? What's happening now? Or
normally a book takes 2 years. Publishing houses like to have 2 years. But I really felt, and it was a passion, that this book had to be out now, because we all need comforting now. We need somebody to say it's going to be all right. It is, I promise. I don't know how, but I know it's going to be all right. You're going to be all right. So it was a really rushed deadline. But when I think of the dreams that I have right now, I want to recreate a home for myself, a real home. And I want to go back to a rural life. One of the reasons that I so love England, where I had a life for 10 years, was it was very rural, and I could see sheep outside my kitchen window in the field. And I love horses. And I want to get back to writing. I've had a screenplay that I've wanted to do for many years.
Wow, that's great.
I'm going to experiment with that. My work is going to be, getting the message out to women that you are so important. You are you're so beautiful. If you only knew it. You're so amazing. I'm in awe of you. You do so much for so many people every day. And, I really respect and admire you. And I really want to share those stories of the women who have gone before, because they are our legacy. We can think of them, and they are like our great-grandmothers, our great-grandmothers. It doesn't matter who they were, but we can claim them. We can claim their truth and use it to help ourselves.
Wow.
And, I just want to say, turn your computer off at 8 p.m., please.
Okay.
Please.
I'm going to start doing that. She said so many things that just resonated so much, and I know we have a little bit over time, but what would you say to someone eager to accomplish something great in their life, but who may feel unclear, overwhelmed, or discouraged?
Well, let's go back to your intuition, okay? In the beginning of our talking, I said it wasn't intuition that sent me to the dining room table to write out the gratitude list. But intuition, which I call knowing, the sixth sense. I believe we have 7 senses. 5 of them are the physical, sight, hearing, touch, scent. Did I lose one there?
Taste.
Well,
Yeah.
Okay. But we have two spiritual ones, and I call it's knowing, the sixth sense, and the sense of wonder, which is the 7th sense. And intuition is always trying to speak to us. Animals survive on intuition, and women thrive on intuition. But we're so used to second guessing ourselves that we don't trust it. This is what we want to do. This is what we want to encourage every day, is trust yourself in just little ways. Let it be your creative science experiment. The intuition can come to us in many ways. I call her she who should be obeyed, because she is always looking out for. And it can be a whisper, it can be a shout, it can be something that you hear in a song, it can be a physical feeling. You can feel nervous. Anytime you're about to make that creative leap, you get nerves. You get nerves in your stomach. You get, oh my God, I can't do this. And again, so many actresses know this. You literally are frozen with fear. It's the next step, as it was before. It's the next step to the stage. And that becomes a creative energy that is the power of their performance. So you feel jittery, or you just sometimes, of course, my favorite way is the sense of calm. I don't believe that intuition, unless it's in our life-saving mode, I believe that our intuition is calm, is a sense of calm. This is going to be all right, but I just know. And women will use intuition if they're married and they have children. They will use intuition for their children. but they don't use it for ourselves. And all I can say is listening to your intuition. After gratitude, becoming comfortable with your intuitive self, honoring your intuitive self is the second most important thing that you'll ever do to keep yourself whole, to find your authentic self. And all dreams are big. All dreams are big, especially the one that you have. And I mean you as a woman, Francesca, but I'm also talking to your listeners.
Yes, absolutely.
Simple abundance was huge, but I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Wow.
I believe one of our greatest blessings is that heaven, that the spiritual and creative world, they operate on the need to know. You don't need to know how hard this is going to be.
Ooh.
All you have to do, because if you did, you would never do it, let me tell you.
Oh my gosh.
That's why it's the net debt.
Wow.
You know, yeah, that's it. That's really the secret. You could never break it up into enough mosaic pieces. So that's not your job. Your job is just to show up for work for that dream and show up on a regular basis. If you're working at something else right now and you have a dream of being a writer or you have a dream of being a painter, we all have to do our day job. Sometimes our day job, we're doing it our entire life as we're following our dream. But you always just have to do it. Young writers will ask me, and I say, your creative discipline is the most important part. A writer is somebody who finishes a blog post, who finishes an essay, a poem, a chapter. You have to finish it. And the way you do that is by showing up for work, showing up whatever time that you have allowed yourself, especially if you're working at something else. Those big dreams, God bless them, and God has blessed them, and the mother of courage has blessed them. But you only have to do the next step. And the next step is listening to your intuition, your sense of knowing. So you see how it's all one circle.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, wow. You said so many wonderful, wonderful things. And I thank you so much for talking with me today. And I know that anyone who watches this is definitely going to be inspired. And I'll make sure to link Simple Abundance and other books as well in the comments. And is there anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Just God bless you all. You're amazing. You're amazing. The world needs you. Go do amazing things.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.